Okay, recording. Cool. Hi, recording. Let's just get started then. Let's not waste time. So I have the practice problems pulled up and there's like 40 of them. So has anyone like started looking at these? Okay, I'm gonna go with no, not yet. Okay, cool. That's fine. I was just gonna ask if anyone had any specific questions over a specific problem, if they have started on this. So otherwise, I'm just kind of gonna go through these one by one as if I were a student, and then hopefully we get through most of them by the time the 2 hours is over. If we don't, you can go to Lambs on Monday and be like, hey, can we go over this specific question or something? I don't know. He'll listen. Okay, so list 5 good coding practices that have been mentioned in this course. We're skipping that problem. In the following dictionary, identify the keys and the values. Write the command to add the key orange with value 1 to the dictionary. Write code to loop through the list and check for a particular key or value. Okay, cool. Add the key orange. I totally forgot how to add keys to dictionaries. So I guess let's write my big equals. Can people see the font size on my IDE? Yes, cool. Good stuff. Got pair. No, banana. And that is okay, cool. Got that. And then we wanna add a thing to it. I don't know. I totally forgot how to do this. Gonna be real. I have not touched a dictionary in so long. My guess is though, do my dict plus equals, and then we do orange. Let's set the value to 1. Okay, and we just that's this. Unsupported operand type. Okay, I knew it. So there's probably some sort of there's probably some sort of function. No, there's no function. Can you append? No, you can't append. Does anyone know how to solve this? Because this is kind of sad that I don't know how to do this. I promise I know what I'm doing. It's just dictionaries. I haven't touched them ever. Not even when I was in 102. This is so sad. Oh, so smart. No add, instead you add by inserting a new index key and then assigning it a particular value. Yeah, I think you're right. Alim with the strats. No, you can't just append. Append is only lists. That's list specific. Append doesn't exist with dictionaries. So you gotta do something else. Like this. There it is. Look at that. Because order doesn't matter in a dictionary. All that matters is the key. So like in a list, the important thing is like the order, because there's indexes that are specific to a particular order of items. But I think in dictionaries, because you don't have that sort of thing, you just create a new index with whatever you want and then assign the value. Okay, cool. I just explained how dictionaries are different from lists. And how are lists different from tuples? Lists are mutable, so you can, if I had a list, that was like that, I can change my list at a specific index to be whatever I want. I could change it to be whatever I want. So that's like the difference between lists and tuples. Is it possible to convert a tuple to a list? You'd have to create like a new list. Like you couldn't just do, maybe you can. I don't know. Does this work? I don't think this would work. It does work. Yeah, you can just convert a tuple to a list like that. That's crazy. That's a list. Okay, cool. I forgot the second part of the problem too. Write code to loop through the list and check for a particular key or value. Write code to loop through the list and check for a particular key or value. So let's say we want to look for, I don't know, 5, I guess. Let's look for the value. And then we can do the key. So this is awful. This is awful that they put dictionaries first, because I don't know dictionaries. How many people are here now? Not many. That's good. For each in my dictionary, we're gonna go if. I wonder if this is how it is. Equals 5. Print. Nice. It printed pair. So when creating this for loop, I did for each in my dict, and so each is going to be associated with a particular key in the dictionary. And so that'll be whatever the value is. So in this case, it's a string. It's going to be apple, pear, banana, orange. And if my dictionary at each is equal to the value, then we'll print what it is. Or I'll just print it whatever. I could print whatever I want, but I'm just wrote pear because the 5 is associated with pear. So if we printed each, it would say apple, pear, banana, orange, and also pear again because this if statement. If you wanted to compare the keys, so if you wanted to find a particular key, you could just do if each is equal to, and then whatever key you wanted it to be, so orange. So we're checking if the key is orange, and yes, when it's orange, we printed out pear. So that's how you can loop through a dictionary and then also find a particular key or a particular value that you have. Yes. Identify and explain 3 ways strings are similar to lists. Okay, so a lot of issues that you guys had in the last exam, at least with the question that I graded, because for my sections, I graded question 36, which was the string splicing question. It was, I don't know, you guys had like, it was like a list of strings. So I'm just gonna go data equals, and then y'all had like hi, and then like 5, like 0. I don't know. How can I print the list of a value of the dictionary in 2? But how can you print the list of values? If you wanted to print the values instead of the keys, you could just do my dict with the square brackets, because just like list, that's telling the dictionary like what key is associated with the thing, if that makes sense. I'm explaining this kind of poorly right now. keys are like indexes in lists. They're like exactly the same. So not exactly the same. That's very confusing. They're similar. So you can like iterate through them similarly. So if we have my dictionary and we wanted to find the value of my dictionary at a certain key, then we would use the square brackets with whatever the key is, because you're theoretically with dictionaries, you're supposed to know the keys and you don't necessarily know the value being stored in the keys. So usually the goal is to like have the key and then like print what it is. So in this case, we printed 3521 because that's what the associated values are in the dictionary. Okay, yes, I'm gonna move on because I'm gonna talk about question 36 from exam 1 that a lot of people were really confused by. And I think it doesn't help that it was like the last question. Because like a lot of people were running out of time and stuff like that. So I understand. I get it. I'm just gonna, this is kind of how it was set up on the exam. It's like you knew where sort of things were at what spot. It was kind of an unknown length, but you know when the next thing started if you counted, as it said in the problem. Yes, and then the goal was to try and work on this. I brought this up because I'm explaining the 3 ways strings are similar to lists, and I think having a big list of strings when the string should be kind of a list as well is helpful for this sort of problem. So we have, so one way that they're similar is that you can splice them. So we could do data to, wow, there's not enough data in this. 1 to 2 and print that, and that would just be the second line. But yes, it's just the second line, the JK line. Or so you can splice them like that. And if we did 1, 3, it would get lines, it would get these 2 lines, it would print them. Yes, there they are. They're both there, HG and JK. Another way that strings are similar to lists is that, I don't know, the indexes, the splicing. That's a third reason. You can append stuff, you can add stuff to strings. So if we had the list here, we have data, we could do data plus equals, and then we want it in a list bracket like that. Just like that. So you can do that with lists, but you could also do that with a string. So if we had my string equals that, then we could do my string plus equals hi. So you can add stuff, you can add more data to each of the variable types with this sort of method. So we got this new line that I added here, and then we also got the space high from here. So that's how strings are similar to lists. The only difference, I would say, the very, very notable difference that strings have that are like not similar to lists at all is that strings are immutable like tuples. So if I had my string plus equals space high, and let's say I wanted to change like some aspects, I wanted to change HI, I wanted it to be I don't know, JK. We're just gonna go with this. We want it to be JK. So if we did, theoretically, you should be able to do my string from -2 and on is equal to big K. But this won't work. I think this will give an error. Yes. Type object string does not support item assignment. So this my string is an item and I'm trying to assign it to something else, like when something is already there. So the data in that particular position already exists. And so Python won't allow you to overwrite it with new data. So that's how strings are different from lists. Everything else is pretty much the same, to be honest. Okay, list all of the data types we have seen in this course, provide an example of each, identify which ones are mutable, which ones are immutable. So I just told you there's strings, which are immutable. Oh yeah, notepad. Why is it so long? Just keeps. There it goes. Okay. Okay, so we got string, immutable, list, mutable, tuples, immutable, dictionary, mutable, Boolean, mutable. Also wait, I would like to mention for the strings being immutable, that just applies if you're like trying to change a specific little part of the string. I'm pretty sure I can just rewrite all of my string. I can rewrite the whole thing as to be whatever I want. Whatever I want. So if we printed my string again, it should be whatever I want instead of whatever it is. Yeah. So you can overwrite the whole thing, but you can't change like little bits and pieces inside of it. You can't change it however you want. So I guess Booleans are technically, I mean, Booleans being mutable or immutable doesn't really make a difference. It only matters for things that have like little items within the big item. So like tuples have little items within the big item, and dictionaries have little items within the big item, and lists also have little item within the big item. So that's important for like mutable versus immutable. Integers, we're not even gonna bother with the immutable stuff because I'm pretty sure it doesn't apply to this sort of stuff. We got floats, and we got is that all the data types that have been covered? Is that it? Can anyone think of anything else? Dictionary, Boolean, integer, float, tuples, lists, strings. Yeah, I agree. I think that's it too. I'm not like an expert in this course though. I like know how to grade and kind of code. And provide an example of each. So string would be like a string of letters. List would be a list of whatever you want it to be. So it can have floats, it can have integers, it can have Booleans, it can have anything, and they don't all need to be the same. And tuples are exactly the same. So we can just do this. But when it's the normal parentheses, that means it's a tuple, and that means that like none of these can be changed, not like just like a string, can't be changed. But lists can. Dictionaries are a 4, and then we'll go B is yes, and C is 4.21, and B is true. So that's what a dictionary data type looks like. Of course, you want to assign them all to values. You want to be able to store the data somewhere. So you got to store it into a variable. Booleans, they can be true, they can be false. It has to be, if it's a Boolean type, it would have to be capital T true, capital F false. That's the only way Python will recognize that sort of stuff. If you want to convert something to a Boolean, I'm pretty sure for integer to Boolean, 0 is false, and anything else is true. And the same applies for float to Boolean conversions. 0.0 is false. Anything else is true. Strings to Booleans, it is an empty string, just like that. It is a false. Anything else, again, is true. If it had a space in it like this, that would be true because there's a character there. It's invisible to you, but it's still a character. It's still there, so that would still evaluate to true. I don't know about converting lists and tuples and dictionaries to Booleans. I don't think you'd convert like a big container like that to a singular data type. That wouldn't make any sense to me. We're just gonna skip that. Integers, y'all know integers like this sort of stuff, all that good stuff, and then floats, y'all know what floats are. In your own words, explain the difference between top-down and bottom-up design methods. Name at least one advantage and one disadvantage for each. So top-down design method would be like, you look at what the whole program should do, and then you break it down bit by bit to create like a pyramid looking thing. So if we have, I'll give my capstone as a reference. So we got so I'm supposed to code for a microcontroller that will be able to move some motors to like tilt a mirror, and then also gather sensor data to make sure that the motors are aligned correctly, and also communicate to a database and send data to the database, and also calculate the sun elevation and like angle from real-time data. So, you know, we look at the whole thing, that's what it's supposed to do, and then we look at like what each little bit is supposed to do, and we like go further and further down that branch to like do that. An advantage and disadvantage, I don't know the lecture material well enough to be able to say that. My recommendation for before the exam is to go over those slides really quickly and keep that fresh in your brain, because you definitely will get a question similar to this in the multiple choice or whatever, because they like to ask theoretical questions. So we're going to skip the rest. Design. Describe the various components of a hierarchy. How can we use one in program design? I'm going to skip that question. That's another little thing. Y'all should answer these, you know, write it down, but I'm not going to answer it. Doesn't matter if we use the same variable names inside a user-defined function in the main program. It does matter. I don't know if I can answer why, to be honest, but I know it does matter because it messes up a lot of people's codes, which is going to be fun. Let's see. So if we defined a find function x to take in input y, t, and b, and in x we are going to do y equals y squared, and then t equals t cubed, and then b equals b cube root. Are y'all like learning anything? Do you have any questions or anything? It's kind of a small group, so like feel free to speak up and do whatever, because do you know if we will be tested on global variables? I would say if you were going to be tested on global variables, it would be like a look at the code and what does it do sort of question. Like remember those where it's they give you code and you have to be like, what does this do? I don't know. That would probably be the only instance. I am working on 8. Doesn't matter if we use the same variable names inside a user-defined function in the main program. So I don't think you'll be tested on global variables super extensively. I think you should like keep in mind and like know kind of how they behave and what they do, but like not super, you don't need to be like an expert on it. It's not something that's like a highlighted thing in the course curriculum. It's not something that you guys need to be tested on. So now we're gonna return y t b. An example of the global variables problem. I can. It might be a struggle. Y'all might see me Google something. So then if we defined like y equals to 2 and something else equals 9, and then a different variable h equal to 54. We're gonna go P1, P2, and P3 equal to x of y dh. And then we're gonna print P2, P3. So if we run this, we got 9 cubed, that's right. We got 2 squared, that's right. And I'm assuming that 54 cube root is this number. So kind of worked out. I don't know. I feel like it's just confusing when you have a variable name that is the same as what's in the user defined function. I feel like it's just confusing. I don't know. I've seen issues before. I can't specifically say what they were because I have forgotten. My brain is not working today. It's a bad time for me to do a review, but I had already scheduled it, so we're going through with it. Global variables. So we got global A, and we're going to set that equal to Python scripts. Statements must be separated by new lines or semicolons. Global variables, Python. Cool. I like W2 schools. W2 schools is good. Let's see. So global variables in general, I guess global A is not a thing. Okay. Yeah. So if you define a variable in just the main thing like this, that's already considered a global variable. So that's why the y was like fine. So then if we did define x and we didn't want to pass anything to it, shit, not bad. Didn't want to pass anything to it, and then we could go global A, define global A. So now you say the global A that exists outside of this user-defined function is also accessible by this user-defined function. So then we could do A times equals 2. Great. So then we run X and then we print A. Great. And so if we do that, invalid syntax. Where's my syntax invalid? Bruh. line 1. I assigned A. No, the whole point is like, see in this example. Oh, wait. Yeah, you're right. I think you're right. We're gonna say A both do. And we're gonna get rid of that. I think though, okay, never mind. Take that back. I take that back. No, never mind. This is still wrong. Can I just skip global variables, bro? I don't know global variables. Gonna be real. I don't know global variables and I don't know dictionaries. That's what all of these practice problems have been. I know everything else. It's so sad. Okay, so see an example. They have x equal to awesome. They defined my function. They set x in the function to be the global x. And then they did this. So let's just copy paste this. Why not? Still says invalid syntax. Okay. This might be like a problem with my editor. Does this one still work? It doesn't work anymore. Okay, I think my VS Code just broke. Do I have PyCharm? I do have PyCharm. Okay, great. I have not. I don't think I've opened PyCharm once. I downloaded it. I don't think I've opened it. Oh my gosh, I have opened it. This is someone's stuff. We're not looking at that. Let's run this. It says Python is fantastic. Okay, so this is how global variables work. Let me zoom in. It doesn't let me zoom in. Why does Control-0 not work? I'm not a fan of PyCharm. No, the indent is supposed to be there. Invalid syntax. I want to fix this right now, but I can't. We're just gonna keep going on. Can you guys see PyCharm? Okay, cool. Because this kind of sucks. Anyways, global variables. If you don't want to pass a specific variable into a function and you don't want to return it either, you can just make it a global variable. So you could do just this, x is defined outside of the function. Technically, the function shouldn't have access to what x is, but because they have global x listed in line 4, then that means that the user-defined function, my function, has the ability to access the value of x outside of itself. So global x, and then it rewrites x to be fantastic, and then, reruns it. X is overwritten once this is run. This doesn't do anything right now. This doesn't do anything at all until this is called. Once this line is written and passed, then that means x has changed. And so then it says Python is fantastic. So if I copied and pasted this and put it up here, it'll say Python is awesome instead of Python is fantastic. So just like that. Doesn't matter where in our code we write our function definitions. Yes, it absolutely does matter where you write your function definitions. So if I copy and paste this down here, my function is undefined. It'll give me an error. It'll say my function is not defined because Python will go through each thing one line at a time, starting from the top to the bottom, and it reaches this. So it doesn't recognize that my function is a thing up here. So it will just give an error. So now it won't give an error. Can functions access main memory? This is like 121. I can't remember that class. That was 4 years ago. Can functions access main memory? How do we pass information into a function? Can functions return multiple values? Okay. Functions cannot access main memory until you define something as global, right? So if I didn't define this global x, if that wasn't there, it wouldn't know what x is, and it would give me an error. Or it wouldn't give me an error, but it would never run my function. It wouldn't do anything. It would give an error in other instances, depending on how you have your code set up. But right now, no. How can we pass information into a function? So you can pass information to a function by defining it globally, just like that, or by actually like passing it in as a variable. So if we passed x into here and did that, we would still need a return statement because we passed it in. It doesn't overwrite x in main memory, it only overwrites x there. So once we return x, then we go x equals my functions. Then that would be how you would fix it. I have missing one required. Yes, I need to pass x in there. Okay, so we pass old x in, we overwrite it, and then we return the new x, and it's stored in x again. So there we go. That's the exact same thing, but without the use of global. It's kind of a bit more work, as you can see. Yes. So that's how functions can access main memory, is by either passing it in through the parentheses or defining it as global and returning something and all that sort of stuff. Functions can return multiple values. I showed that earlier in here. I think no, in here. In the old one that I had that I deleted, I passed multiple things. So when you return multiple things, I'm just gonna go A equals 4, B equals 7, C equals 6, and then we're gonna return A, B, C. Great. So then what we can do is we can do HG, HI is equal to that. So then it'll A, B, and C will be respectively put into G, H, and I. If you didn't do that, if you only put it into one, it would return a tuple. So if we printed G, it would just be a tuple C. So when you return multiple items but only store it into one, it's automatically a tuple, but you can also assign values to a tuple like I did earlier with the H, I. So if we only print G, we'll just get 4. So that's how returning stuff works in functions. Most likely, I think for your free response problems on the exam, that might just be stuff like write a function that returns this. Like that's how it's going to be set up. So it's basically going to be the same stuff as before, but you're just writing a function for it instead of I need my glasses, can't see. Instead of doing other, I don't know, not writing functions, because in your other exam you just you just wrote main code and it was fine. I don't know, I'm trying to think of ways that this could be done for the exam, but I can't really. I haven't seen the exam, and I don't remember last year's exam. What type of coding error do you hate the most? Does anyone have any type of coding error that they hate the most? You want to type it or say it out loud or something? Logic, syntax. Okay, syntax errors theoretically won't affect your score in the free response on the exam because it's, I don't know, we're specifically told to ignore it. Some PTs might just not ignore it though. They might just like be like, hey, this is wrong. And if the syntax error messes with how the logic of the code is done, then that would be an issue and you could get points off for that. But for the most part, I wouldn't worry about syntax. Logic errors do suck. That's true. Logic error is just get good. I don't know. Don't know how to explain it to you. All of it, get good. And practice. Practice is good. If we don't get to these sort of things, the actual problems, the problems, practice them because they will be helpful. Practice is the best way to code. You should try and you know, you'll have like, you know, your like Cal 1 and stuff. If you have homework in that class still, whatever math you're in, try and like turn it into like a Python program and like calculate it in Python. Yeah, I don't know how the homework for 151 works. Can I go over dot split and dot strip? Yes, I can go over dot split and dot strip. So why does this not work anymore? We're gonna close VS Code. We're gonna open it up again. It works. Okay, cool. Great. I'm gonna go back to VS Code. Screw PyCharm. Dot split and dot strip. So I have scanned passports here. This lovely, lovely little thing that you guys all loved, I'm sure. You guys all really loved scanned passports. That's Capricorns. Okay, so let's just go file in equals open scanned passports dot txt, and we're gonna read from it. So how do we want to read? I think we just want to do dot read. So then we'll go file in dot close the file. I'm gonna get to the split and the strip. I'm just doing this as like setup for getting to split and strip. So I'm gonna go data equals file in dot read. So there's read lines, which gets you every single new line. I'm gonna close that. I'm gonna close that. Every single new line is like going to be an item in a list. So this will be an item in a list. 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 That's what read lines does. I don't want that because you can see in scanned passports, everything is kind of irregular and you don't know for sure what you're working with. So I'm going to go file in dot read. And then once I do file in dot read, I have data that will look like a lot of stuff. It'll look like a lot. It just looks exactly like what I have. It's formatted exactly. It's just all one big string. So then after that, I want to separate passports. So this is where I'm going to use dot split. So I want to split up this one big string into lists of smaller strings. And I can know that like this is going to be slash new line and this is going to be a slash new line. So I'm going to go data dot split on the, what is it, new line on that. This is so sad. Okay, we're gonna overwrite old data. I just have to remember that it returns something. There we go. Okay, see? So now it's successfully split. So we have this last one is all of the things split on the double new lines. So it'll get this whole thing is one item in a list. This whole thing is one item in a list. And this whole thing is one item in a list. And this whole thing is also one item in a list. So that's what the dot split on the new line does. So it'll split on whatever it finds and then return that. So you got to store it again to a new thing. So we could actually do new data just to show that it's different. But you could overwrite the old stuff and it wouldn't make a difference. So now I want to do dot strip. So I'm going to do new data dot strip. And the dot strip will theoretically get rid of all these new lines and all these little spaces that we don't care about. But we kind of do care about them, to be honest. But I mean, whatever. We'll see. Doesn't read line ignore the first line of a file? Read line just reads the line. It will not ignore the first line of a file. It'll start at the first line of a file, and you got to read the next one, the next one, the next one. Read lines does not skip the first line of a file. It never did. It never will. There's no point in it doing that. It just reads the whole thing. So if scanned passports was like that, if I had this new line here, and we did read lines, just have to run this apart there. I'm gonna save that. We're gonna comment this out because I didn't do strip right. I messed it up. But here. Why does it look like that? What happened? Whatever, I don't care. We're gonna get rid of this. We're not printing it in. We're just gonna print eta. And if we scroll all the way up, no, we're not gonna scroll all the way up. We're just gonna print the first item. What does the first item? The first item is just a new line. It's just empty. So eta 0. Data, whatever. Yeah, there it is. It's just empty. It's the new line and then a space and then whatever I wrote. Because the comma put the space here. And then this right here is just empty new line. So that's what that does. I'm gonna get rid of this. I don't like it there. So we got this. And then we gotta go, I really don't know if I want to do dot strip. Here, I don't think I would do dot strip here. So the strip Python or the strip function in Python, if we did this, would strip all of these. So just gonna copy paste this into here. There. See, of all the fruits, banana is my favorite. So it stripped all of the white space here and all of the white space here, and these commas added spaces between fruits and between banana and is. So that's how dot strip works. It also strips new lines, and you can strip specific characters. So it'll strip all of these characters. I don't know, dot strip is pretty simple. It also should remove new lines. So if we have /m here and we run it, yeah, it strips the new lines too, because new lines are considered white space along with actual spaces. So it would strip those and get rid of those. Moving on. When you are trying to fix your code, what are some alternatives to using a debugger? I never use debuggers. I just, print everything and figure out where my code is going. That's what I do personally. I don't know what answer she's trying to get out of this question, but I'll tell you what I do. When would it be best to use my file equals open and my file equals close as opposed to with open as my file? That's a great question. I like using my file equals open and my file.close just because I just like it more personally. I think it has more benefit when you're opening multiple files, because the with open has to do, you have to do it, it's like you have to indent it all, So if we did with open scanned passports txt R as file in, these would all have to be indented for it to work. So then if you had like another file that you had to open again to like write to or something, you would need it indented more. And that's just for the file IO. What if you had like a double nested for loop that you had to have in here? I don't know. I think it's just for, the only difference is just the indents and like looking nice. But I'm a big fan of the open and the dot close. When opening files, what is the difference between the designators? R is read, W is writing to a file. So what W will do is if the file doesn't already exist, then it'll create the new file. So if we did file out equals open out dot txt W, and then we did file out dot write. We did that, and then file out dot close. So out.txt doesn't exist in my Explorer folder right now, right? So when we run this now, out.txt is created and it's got everything that I have. So that's like that's what write does. So now if we change what this is to Angies are cool, right? And we rerun this, it'll overwrite whatever I had in out.txt. It won't make a new file. It'll say, okay, this is the file that we want, and we're writing to it. We see it already exists, so we're just going to overwrite it. And that's exactly what happens. It just overwrites it. Otherwise, if it's not already there, it'll just create it. R plus, I don't know what R plus does. I think A is a mix of W and R. So if we did A, we could read from and also write to, but that creates a lot of issues. Python file type file designators. Let's see. R plus is open for reading and writing. And then A, what does regular A do? Doesn't tell me. Okay, well, A is probably something where it's like the file has to already exist beforehand from what I read there. Y'all can look it up more. It should be in your slides. What are the differences between myfile.read, myfile.readline, myfile.readlines, and list of my file? I'm pretty sure list of my file does the same thing as .readlines. We covered .read and we covered .readline, kind of. Does anyone want to go over these more? A just appends the file. That makes sense. A appending would make sense. So then it doesn't overwrite anything. And also it's A, and A for append makes sense. What commands are used to remove the leading and trailing white space in a string? We just covered that. That's .strip. To separate a string into a list of its components with a specified delimiter, we also covered that. That's .split. Read an example using both. I just showed both, so we're going to skip that. Write the command to print the value of pi to 4 decimal places onto the screen. Don't forget to import pi from the math module. Cool. Yeah, we can do this. So from math import pi. Just gonna import pi instead of star. I don't care about anything else. Print, and then it's F string like that. I'm just gonna go x equals to pi. And then print. Oh, I don't remember this. I really don't like this. Pretty sure it's just x in there. There it goes, 4 decimal places. So you put the variable in there, the colon to designate like when you're starting to do this. Did the dot, and then the 4 to signify decimal places instead of like the other places, and then I think I could be lying. And then the F is to signify that we're working with a float, which means it'll expect a float. So if we didn't put a float in here, we had like F equals to 6, and we put in F. It still works because it's treating it like a float. If we did a string, there will be issues. Exactly. Unknown format code, F for object of type str. So we have a string, it doesn't allow that to happen. Okay, cool, that was easy. Write the command to import cool function from the Neato module in funpack. Do I want to do this problem? I do not want to do this problem. I'm not going to do this problem. You guys don't get to see me do this problem. What are the differences between NP and NumPy? Don't expect me to do NumPy. Don't boo me. This is stuff that I don't remember. Should be in your slides. Worst case scenario, I know y'all have class tomorrow. Ask Dr. Ritchie in class and she will answer it. If you raise your hand when like everyone is there, then everyone gets to see the answer, and that would be cool. Ask about it in class. Class is tomorrow. Matplotlib is on the exam. Barely. There's not going to be any free response. It'll probably just be like the auto-graded stuff, so like multiple choice or something. Or it'll be like, what is the correct output of this thing? Or it'll be like, this is the output that we got from Matplotlib. Here's the plot. Like, what's the code that we used to get it? And it'll be like an exponential graph or something. And I don't know. Maybe like a good example would be like Canvas. I don't know. Where's the Matplotlib one? Let's file IO. Lecture slides. Is there a lot of NumPy questions? It'll probably be about the same number as Matplotlib questions. I'm still recording, right? I think I'm recording. Okay, cool. I'll post it on YouTube like later or something. You guys can go 1.5 speed because this kind of sucks. Screw this. This is where you'll find about importing the modules and stuff. Oh, wait a minute. Rename it to cool F. That's probably just, what is it, from funpack? No. This is all fake. These are all fake module names. This sucks. We're doing number 18. I lied to you guys. I found the slides. So here's the module name, and the package I think is like after the module name. Module name, function name, arguments. We're not worrying about it. It's like when you import matplotlib.pyplot, like pyplot is the package. So I think it would be the module is Neato mod, and then it would be .funpack import cool func as coolf. And that would be how you do that. I think that's what it would be. Can't confirm though. Because it's not real. And we're skipping NumPy. We can look at Matplotlib though. I know Matplotlib more than I know NumPy. What are the differences between plt.plot, plt.var, plt.hist, and plt.scatter? Plt.plot is just like treating it like coordinates in like your math class. Like you got your x, and you got your y. Plt.bar will give you a bar graph, of course. Plt.hist will give you a histogram of the data, and then plt.scatter will give you a scatter plot. How do you set the color of a line? You do plt inside of plt.plot. You would have like plt.plot. You'd have like your x, your y, and then you can do color equals, and then they have like little codes that you can look up for like specific colors. So C is like cyan, and G is obviously like green, and R is red, and stuff like that. And the marker shapes, man, I forgot how to do Matplotlib. This is all very Googleable though. This is all the module stuff is a good Google question. It's not a good PT question. It's a good Google question. Why is it important to include doc strings when writing functions? Great question. I'm gonna skip it. Okay, now we're on to like the actual code. This is stuff that I can actually do very well. For the following problems, write the output to the code. If there's an error, explain the error. Don't forget brackets and or as needed. So we're gonna write the output. I'm gonna go back to Notepad. Since I don't need to code this, I can copy paste it to VS Code to double check that we're doing this right. You'll all have access to this, right? To the exam 2 practice problems. You'll know where it is. So you can like refer back to it and stuff. And you're going to class tomorrow so that you can ask about questions that you have after this review session, because I'm sure you'll have some, because I'm not explaining everything super clearly. Let's see. Dr. Ritchie, probably like the very best resource out there. I guess I've been in 102 technically as long as she has, because I was one of her first students ever, because she started when I was a freshman. But she's great. She's real good. She's a real expert at this class. And she also really knows Matplotlib like really well. She knows that whole module and that whole package very, very well, because she did it for her job when she was in industry before this. Okay, so we got vector 1 is a tuple of 1, 2, 3. And vector 2 is a tuple of 2, 3, 4. And then we got the dot product is vector 1 times vector 2, and then the dot product is dot p. So it should just be 2 plus 6 plus 12. What is that? 2 plus 6 plus 12, and that is 20. So then output should be the dot product is 20. That's what the output should be. So we're going to copy paste, check to see that that's right. And multiply sequence by non-int of type tuple. Okay, it just gave me an error. Yes, that's great. It was supposed to give an error. I didn't realize that they had questions like that. Theoretically, would be 20, but you can't multiply two tuples like that together. You'd probably have to do dot p equals 0 and then for each in vector 1, not for each, for I in range length vector 1 dot p plus equals vector 1 and I times vector 2 at I. So now it should give 20. The dot product is 20. There we go. So The problem is you can't just multiply two tuples together. Python doesn't know what that is, so you have to go in through item by item and do that. I think if this was NumPy and like an array, it would be fine. But if it was an array data type, but it's not, it's just tuple. But I don't like NumPy, and I don't know NumPy, so I can't guarantee that. If the vectors were written in brackets, if it was a list instead of a tuple, like this, you'd still have the same issue. Wouldn't change anything. I think all the basic data types that you learned before don't work for that. It only works if it's like a NumPy data type, because they have specific data types. Okay, so we got my string equals howdy. My list is that, my tuple is my string and my list, and then my list at 3 is equal to 6. So print my tuple. We should make a Kahoot with questions like these. I don't do the Kahoot. You guys can ask the Kahoot person. I don't do the reviews that other guys do. I just do my own stuff. I think the Kahoot does have questions like these. There is a Kahoot. Are you guys in the Discord server? Y'all are. You have to be. Yes. I'm pretty sure the Kahoot already has stuff like this. You can check in the drive or whatever. It's like, what is it? Shared with me. Where is that? The final review. You guys have access to this. I'm pretty sure the Kahoot is there. There's the whole recording for it. And you can see the questions and stuff. Yes, there's been a Kahoot, and you can go look at it and go watch it. It'll be fun. It'll help you, hopefully. Okay, let's go back to this. So printing my tuple, we should get howdy, and then comma, space, and then I'm pretty sure my list here is like an alias. Like inside the tuple, it's just pointing to the actual data. It's not storing anything in my tuple. It's just like, oh, we're just gonna, because like it's so much easier for the language to not have its own copy of the data here, instead just realize that there's a reference to another data type somewhere else. So it sees my string and goes, okay, cool. We're just gonna keep that here. We're gonna keep this in mind. And then when we call it, we're gonna know that we need to get access this. And the same thing happened with my list. So you can change my list. And so 0, 1, 2, 3, and I think it should be 2, 0, 2, 6. Look, you guys got to do your little thing. It says 26. Do your little thing. That's what the output should be, though. Yay! Look, I was right. Cool. It's a win. So now we got define plus 1 underscore 3 of x returns x plus 1 and x plus 3. So we print plus x plus 1 underscore 3 of 2 at the 0 position. So because it's like a tuple, right? It returns a tuple. So we got a tuple of x plus 1 and x plus 3. So we want to get access to the first character, the first item in that tuple, which would be x plus 1. And we know that the thing is 2, so it should output 3. So let's copy and paste this again. So if we want to indent, run 3. Yeah, right there, just like that. It's just that easy. You guys got this. Find my fun. This function prints a message. So it prints Bigum Angies and then help my fun. I do not know what the help function does. Gonna be real. Python help function. Okay, cool. Python help function is used to display documentation of modules, functions, classes, keywords. So if you did help of something, it'll do that. So help of print does all of this. Help of this function, so these three quotation marks, the three apostrophes, says this function prints a message. So help my fun will probably say that it'll probably output this function prints a message. Okay, yeah, this is what it looks like. So it says what you're trying to look for help of. And then it says what the doc string says. So this function prints a message. So that's what help function does. I've never seen this talked about before. Okay. Then we got define my function a b equals 5 c, return a b times c. So this b equals 5 is like what that does is when you're passing a variable, or when you're setting it up as a thing there, the 5 will be the default value, I guess. So if b is not passed into the thing, it'll just be set to 5. Otherwise, the 2 is what takes precedence. So it should be 1 times 2 times 3 should be 6, but I could be a liar. So we're gonna find out if I'm a liar. Syntax error. Non-default argument follows default argument. Okay, yes, this creates an error. So the default arguments all have to be in the back. So if we did c equals 5, and then b is like that, then this should be 6, and it is 6. If we didn't want this third argument, if we just wanted this, then it should print 10, just like that. It's like your range function. Like, you know how your range, you can do range 9, range 6, whatever. Range 6, you know the default, it starts at 0, right? And then it goes to 6. So that's what the default first value is like 0 to 6. And then we can do range, what, like 4, 7, and now we'll go from 4 to 7. 4 to 6 technically. I don't know, that's just like range is a function that works just like this. With default arguments and non-default arguments. Some things have to be defined and other things don't have to be, but they can be. It's like how matplotlib chooses a default color for you and a default like pattern on a scatter plot or whatever. That's just how it goes. Define add 1. If x equals 1, or if x plus 1 is less than 10, return x plus 1. Else, return too big. So we got add 1. We got add 1 of 24. So it'll print 2 space too big. That's what it should print. Just like 2 space too big, just like that. Just like that. It's just that easy. Okay, number 28. X equals 4, y equals times 2x. This is going to create an error. I just told you guys earlier about how if you use a function before it's defined, it'll give an error because it's not going to look ahead. It's just going to get to this line. It's going to go, hey, I don't know what times 2 is. And so I'm going to break now. Goodbye. That's how it works. If we moved this up to be at the very top, or even just between X and Y, then it would be 4 times 2 would print, it would print 8. That's what it would print. So then we got my dictionary, Ann equals 18, Bob is 20, Charlie is 19. If Joe is in my dictionary, print Joe's here. If Ann in my dictionary, print hi Ann, else anyone. So Joe is not in my dictionary. Ann is in my dictionary. So we're gonna print hi Ann. That's what it's gonna be. It's just gonna be hi Ann. Dictionary is, there's an empty dictionary, then we get a list. My dictionary, length equals length of my list, max equals max of my list, min equals min of my list, crazy equals my list at this index times this minus this. And then it's gonna ask for I in my dictionary, it's gonna print what the key is and then what the value at that key is. So this should be length and then space, and then what is the length? 5. And then it should print max, and it should be 5, and then min, and that should be 1, and then crazy is 2 times 4, 8 minus 5. 8 minus 5 should be 3. So that's what the output should be, these 4 things. There it is, 5513, just like that. So now 31, howdy, welcome to Texas A&M Engineering. My list equals my string dot split. New string is an empty string, and for I in range 3 to length of my list. So we split. My list is my string dot split, so it's going to be howdy, comma, welcome, comma, to, comma, Texas, comma, A&M, comma, engineering, exclamation point. So for I in range 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way to the end, new string plus equals my list at I and the space. So then print my list from 0 to 5. No, my list at 0, the first 5 things, not including. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we'll print howdy. That's what my list, that's what this does. Space, howdy space, new string, the last 2, which should be, it should cut off the space and the exclamation point at the end. So it should be howdy Texas A&M engineering students. So that's what it is. It's just fancy string formatting. Very cute stuff. And there we go. Howdy Texas A&M engineering students. Just like that. It's just that easy. Then we got my list is 537912. Pop, insert 2, 4, sort. For I in my list, print I with the space. This pop, I think pop's the last value. So it should just be 53791. And then inserting at index 2. So 7 is replaced by 4. Or it's inserted there. Like, and everything is moved back. I think everything is moved back. So it's 534791. And then sorted. So the 2 should not be there anymore when we run this and print it. And it's not there anymore. Just that easy. So there's still 6 things. because we popped the last value and then we inserted a new value and then we sorted it. So we got rid of one value, we added a new one. So it's still got the same number of indexes, but just new values because we got rid of one of them, added a new one, and then we sorted it. Okay, number equals input, enter a number, assume the user enters 5.0. Try x equals into number. Print f of x is the integer x, except print f of x is the float x. Okay, so the user enters 5.0. I'm pretty sure the int won't work. The float will work. So we go x is the float 5.0. Enter a number. X is the float 5.0. Okay, import numpy as np. I'm skipping that. I'm skipping that one too. I do not want to do these. Code writing problems. Okay, we can do these. We can do, I think I have time for like one of them. And can you guys like all hear me okay and stuff? Okay, cool. Assume the function isPrime is available for you to use in a module called Engineering 102, which determines whether or not a number is a prime number. The function isPrime takes in a parameter as a single integer and returns either true or false. Write a Python program that takes as input from the user 2 integers. If the user gives a bad input, continue to prompt them to try again until they enter 2 integers. Then, test only using the odd numbers. Test only the odd numbers between and including those 2 numbers. To check if they are prime using isPrime, have your function print a list of prime numbers found. If no prime numbers found, have your program print a message stating that. So, pretty easy. We're gonna go and we're gonna set it to an empty list. So then if we test that something is prime and it's there, then we add it, we can append it to the list. So we're gonna do while true. Very good. Input. We're also gonna do input like that. I'm just gonna do while true. No. We're gonna do a real condition. We're not doing while true. While input, while length of input is less than 2. N equals input, enter an integer, right? N equals enter an integer, and then try n equals int n. And if that works, then we want to do input.append n. What do you want? And then we're going to go accept print, please try again. And theoretically, this should go on forever if I wanted it to. And print. So let's check if this works. Let's check if this little bit works. Let's run it. So let's enter 5. And let's enter 8.9. And let's enter 4.1. And then let's enter 97. And there it goes. Just like that. So now if we started this with 5.1, 2, and 78. There we go. It works. So our little thing works. So we got the first part. This is probably like half the points, to be honest. Then test only the odd numbers between the two. So then we can go for I in range input at 0 to input at 1 step by 2. Then test only the odd numbers between and including those two numbers. Okay, cool. We're not gonna step by 2. We're just gonna keep going. We're gonna go if I modulo 2 is equal to 1. We're just gonna do that. We're just gonna not deal with the step because if it starts on an even number, then it only steps by even numbers. So let's see. Have your program. So then once we do that, we're gonna go. What does is prime? Is prime returns true or false? So if is prime I. So if it's true, then we can go prim dot append I. I think that's all we need. I think that's it. So the actual is prime, testing the prime part is not that hard compared to getting this. And then I guess it says, if no prime numbers are found, have your program print a message stating that. So we can go if length of prim equals 0, print no primes found. And then else print. So it'll print the whole list of prime numbers that were found. I think that's the whole thing. Can't test it because is prime doesn't exist unless we define it. But I don't want to. Python is prime function. Where is this? Okay, cool. We're gonna steal this code. That's our is prime. And now it's defined. And we're just gonna steal it to check. So let's check. Let's enter an integer 5 to 68. Why did it print all those 5s? Why did it print all those 5s? Okay, whatever, I don't care. It printed all the prime numbers between 5 and 68. So it worked. It was good enough. It would get full points. Except no, it wouldn't get full points. It needs a comment. We're just gonna eat those points. We're not gonna get the comment points. That's not for us to get. If you really didn't know how to approach this at all, I would recommend doing a loop because it says, I would just write some loop for the input. It doesn't matter what it is. If you wrote a loop at all, you'd probably get half credit. Because it says, what does it say here? That helps. Write a Python program that takes an input. If the user gives a bad input, continue to prompt them. See, that kind of hints at a loop, right? Continue to prompt. That's a loop. And so then you get points for that. And then test only the odd numbers between and including those two numbers. So then, you want to go through the range of the two numbers. So obviously, like, I feel like the for loop makes sense. And then just have a conditional in there. Test for odd, it's odd. And then you get like half points for that if you didn't know how to do it. And then obviously comment, and then do the output print stuff. So like, it says, have your program print the list of prime numbers found. If none were found, have it print a message stating that. So this if length of this thing that's supposed to hold the prime numbers is 0, then obviously no primes are found, else print the primes. This would get full credit for the print statement. Yeah, when in doubt, do a print statement and then do like, if you think the question requires a loop, set up the loop to the best of your ability. Don't like write in paragraphs your whole thing, like in comments, like that's hard to read. Just if the code looks bad, that's fine. Just write it anyways. If it's written as code, it's a lot easier to grade. 5:30. Is that time for like 2 more problems maybe? A text file named data.dat is stored on a computer's hard drive, and text editor of the file displays the snippet below. The entire file is over 100 lines. Okay, you know what? I don't want to do this. And not gonna lie, I'm feeling really bad today, so I'm gonna cut my review short. If everyone is okay with that, to be honest. There's 7 people now. You guys all cool with that? I feel like I've gone over a lot and like been helpful. Okay, cool. I'll see you guys then.